readers,
reviewers,
countrymen,
lend us your ears.
Hello and welcome to the channel. Today, the Brothers Gwynne are going to be continuing with part 2 of our favourite standalones that we have read. Now, we're covering quite a range of genres here, as you would have seen in the first video. If you haven't checked that video out yet, go and do so now so you can see what our top picks were.
Unless you just want to see our very favourites, just carry on watching this video.
I recommend you watch them both. And today you will see some honourable mentions as well. So Will, would you like to begin?
Yeah, just first of all, we made a rule of only one book per author because I would have everything by Cormac McCarthy that I've read. But yes, only one shall be chosen for each author. But yes, I will dive straight in.
There can be only one.
There can be only one. I will plunge into my very, very favourites. And this is my 4th favourite standalone of all time, and it is To Kill Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is a classic, and I would say a classic for a reason, really. I'm pretty sure almost everyone who has read this agrees with that statement. It is a fantastic story of such depth, which comments on so many important themes of equality, the importance of it, the importance to make a stand, but also the consequences in a society that goes against that and their hegemonic values. It's really powerful. It's written so well. It's so immersive. You really love the main character of Scout and her father, Atticus Finch. What a character he is, isn't he? And you just love these characters. You feel like that you're in their world where it's our world, but you feel like you're with them and accompanying them on this journey of this bildungsroman as Scout is becoming more of an adult. And learning about the horrible nature of much of the real world. But yes, To Kill Mockingbird is absolutely fantastic.
And my pick for number 4 is James Clavell's Shogun. Now, this was written in the 70s, and I read this when I was about 15, 16, and this, as the name suggests, if you've played any Total War game, you will know that this is a tale of samurai age Japan, and this is a tale of the 17th century. I think this is set in the year 1600, and it is about a European, John Blackthorne, who washes up on the shores of Japan, and then he is forced into this crux of a different world where religion plays a huge part, and the different cultures of the European, Portuguese and the English and the Dutch, trying to have trade agreements and settle into Japan and make as much money from Japan as possible. And there are some families in Japan of the samurai who are not in favour of trading with Europeans, and then there are others that are, and they want to kind of use what these Europeans have. And Shogun is about a 1,200-page novel. It is breathtaking. It is one of the best ever written. James Clavell was a fantastic writer to start with. He has a way of characterization that is just sublime. He really gets under the character's skin, and he really creates these characters that you either love or you hate or you despise, or you know. And they also do some crazy stuff. They're crazy stuff. There are a couple of set pieces of action which are used fantastically well. This is more of a kind of a political novel, where it's, you know, just seeing John Blackthorne kind of discover the culture of Japan through his experiences. And it's a very dark book as well. There is love here, there is murder, there is betrayal. There are some Game of Thrones-esque politics going on and some extreme betrayals. Yeah, there are moments that you probably will be hit in the feels because it's a very emotional book as well. But yeah, this made me fall in love with that era, the Sengoku Jidai period of Japan. And, you know, I think there actually was a series of this on TV in the 70s, which I don't think was that great, but I watched a few episodes, but obviously it's very dated. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. But Shogun is amazing. It's a masterpiece. It's something that I would recommend everyone read, whether you like fantasy or historical fiction. You know, there's something to get here. It's a little bit, sounds a little bit like Wolf Hall, that kind of thing. It's that kind of, you know, that prize-winning book, you know, like Lonesome Dove, that can apply, even if you're not obsessed with, you know, you're not really into this genre, you will still love it, whether you like it or not.
It's one of those that, you know, those books that are always really high on your TBR, but for just some reason you don't pick them up. Shogun's been like that for me, but hopefully I
wouldn't admit that, Will. I wouldn't admit that.
Yeah, hopefully I'll pick it up actually soon. But now on to our third favourite, and I'm going to pick up another historical fiction standalone. See, we've realised there's not many fantasy ones, are there?
Not too many.
There's a lot of historical fiction ones, which is great. And Gates of Fire is my number 3 pick. This is by Stephen Pressfield, We actually did a video not too long ago talking about, is this the greatest historical fiction book ever? So I'll have that pop up. You can watch that video if you would like to. But anyway, carrying on with this video. This is my third favourite standalone. It is a tale of Thermopylae, so 300, with the Spartans holding the pass against 1,000,000 Persians. And Gates of Fire gives us the context. We accompany someone who is not a Spartan, but through some tragic and crazy events of his own life, he becomes intertwined with the Spartan cities, and he is accompanying them. I'll say that without to not cause any spoilers. And so yes, through his eyes we get to see everything that occurs before the battle, during the battle, and the aftermath, because this is a chronicler's tale. He is telling his story and everyone else who was with him, and it is a story that shows the brutality of war, but also the camaraderie of many of these characters. And it is very philosophical, and it's very emotional as well. It does, as Ed puts it, hit you in the feels, because you see this ideal that they think they are sacrificing themselves for something greater, and it is quite emotional. It's very impactful, having characters who really believe in that and will do anything to achieve their goals. And Stephen Pressfield does it masterfully. And yeah, Gates of Fire, I'd say anyone, even if you're not interested in historical fiction, try this out.
And I chose the same book for my third pick.
No way.
And Gates of Fire is written in such a timeless manner that it feels like, you know, if Stephen Pressfield isn't bogged down by having to get all of the details correct, even though he actually does. But he writes it in a way that you could, if you just change the names from Xerxes, you know, all the other names, these crazy ancient Greek names, which are awesome. If you change them to modern day names, and you would feel like you're actually with a band of, you know, maybe not Navy SEALs, that kind of thing. It feels like that kind of warrior aspect. It can be applied back then and also nowadays. Which is, I think, one of its main appeals, why, you know, Stephen Pressfield, he writes in such a way of getting in these characters' heads, and he really captures the camaraderie, as Will said, between the characters. And there are characters you don't like. It feels so realistic as well. There's no heroics here. There's nothing really. That characters are just head and shoulders above everyone else, and it's not like Dynasty Warriors, that kind of thing. They're wiping out everyone. They are humans at the end of the day, and they fall out, they argue, some of the warriors just don't like each other, but they still fight together for a cause. And there are these character moments here that I would recommend. If you're an aspiring author, then go and read this book, because Stephen Pressfield has these character moments that are just amazing. They'll bring a tear to your eye within just a sentence from after all this build up that he does. So successful. He also has written probably my favourite battle ever put onto the page, Thermopylae. The way he describes it is absolutely fantastic. When I read a book, I like to sometimes make notes on, like a line I like or a few words. Or here I was just writing paragraphs of it out into my notes on my phone, because it was just so amazing, so gripping, and I feel that there's so many lessons to be learned here from being a reader and also being a writer. So yeah, Stephen Pressfield, Gates of Fire. Go check out our review on the channel. Very nice.
But as you can tell, we both love that, so we are advocates for the Gates of Fire. Pick it up. Yeah. But now on to our second favourite standalone of all time. So my number 2 is The Road. So let's get this awesome cover out there. This is Folio Society edition, and as you can tell, if I've bought a Folio Society edition, it means I love the book. And I love the artwork in this as well. And The Road is by Cormac McCarthy. I did say that if we were having more than one book by each author, I'd have everything by him, basically, that I've read. So I'd have Bunbury Inn, No Country for Old Men, all of them. And obviously The Road. This is my favourite work by him. I just find it so impactful, the story of the father and the son. So it's slightly apocalyptic. We don't know if there's been an environmental crisis or if it's been nuclear war, but we know that the land is basically a barren wasteland. And there's a father and a son, and they are trying to survive in a world that is becoming worse and worse by the day. Everyone is struggling to save themselves, and there are not many people left. And we see that they struggle to talk to each other. It's a relationship with few words, but they care so deeply about each other. And we mainly see into the mind of the father and seeing how he looks at his son, how he will do anything for his son. It's very impactful, and Cormac McCarthy does it in such a subtle way where he explores these characters and the themes to perfection, in my opinion. And the road is just fantastic, and it's not too long, but it is a tense read, not for the faint of heart for sure. There's one of these scenes here that really had my heart thumping. Yeah. But yeah, that is The Road, my second favourite standalone of all time.
And my second favourite here is a book by Joe Abercrombie. And now they are called the standalones. You do meet these characters before and after as well in other books, but I cannot have a standalone list without the heroes on there.
You're bending the rules there, but as you said last time, I
made the rules, so you know I can. But yeah, The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie is my favourite standalone because, I mean, if someone asks me, I saw in a comment recently in one of our videos, someone saying, you know, I love that you read about, you know, war and, you know, swords and all this kind of stuff, you know, and I was like, yeah, actually, I think my genre is war. And The Heroes is a book about purely about one war, one battle. And it's fantastic. Obviously, I probably love this so much because of the build-up that Joe did in the First Law trilogy as well. But here, my favourite character, Gorst, this is where he became my favourite character in the First Law world because he is just so funny. And, you know, this is inspired by the film A Bridge Too Far, which is about the... I think it's set in World War II.
Yeah.
Arnhem. That's it, Arnhem, between the British and the Nazis. And that didn't go too well. But yeah, so basically you're seeing this battle on both sides of the conflict, and it is multi-POV. Joe does it so well. He interweaves their storylines perfectly, and the action in this is just so good. Fantastic. Joe experiments with so many different things here. Like one character at the beginning of their chapters, it's a letter to the king each time, and then the whole chapter, the rest of the chapter after that is about kind of sort of disproving of the heroics set in that letter, which is really funny. And then other bits is, you know, where Joe found his staple here, which is the multi-POV head swapping during a battle or a conflict. And this is where he first did it, which was just brutal. So you'll be in one POV head, and then they'll get killed, and then you'll go to the POV who killed them, and then so on and so forth until the day is over. And it's just brutal. But I love the way Joe writes. It's such humour and dry wit that even when, you know, the blood is running down your face, then you're still laughing because it's just hilarious. But yeah, The Heroes, I had to choose this above Red Country and Best Served Cold because of our most valued player here, which is definitely Gorst. So yeah,
very nice.
We had a Joe book on there.
You had to.
Did you have any Joe books on there?
No, because I thought it broke the rules. But
you broke.
That's up to you. I did break some rules. Probably not as much though.
Not Joe's #1 fan then.
Oh, you can claim that badge.
Thank you.
But now on to our honourable mentions before we get to our #1 pick, and I'll kick that off if that's right, Ed, and I'll go with Circe. I'm probably saying it wrong. By Madeline Miller. So this is a standalone Greek mythology, and we follow the character of Circe, who is a figure in Greek mythology, but one of the lesser known ones. Probably not anymore because of this book and how successful it was. But Circe plays a role in a minor role in so many of the myths that we know, most namely probably Odysseus on his journey back from the Trojan War, which took many a year. I forgot how many. Might be 10, 12 years to get back home. And so she's a great character where you see that the odds are against her. She's not given much room to actually be herself and use her abilities, and so then she is restrained when she tries to oppose that. But we see what she does with the limited influence that she has, the limited area she's allowed in. We see what she does with that, and it's very interesting. It's a great book. Madeline Miller does a great job of, for me particularly, exploring Circe's character and creating a very vivid world. She's a beautiful writer. I mean, creates such a vivid image in your mind where you can just feel like you're walking through this place. And not always in a good way. Sometimes beautiful landscapes, but it's sometimes pretty terrible things that she's describing as well. Shark-eating immortal things, to name one. But yes, Circe is one of my honourable mentions.
The first one for me is Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. And the reason I chose this as my favourite Neil Gaiman book is just there's something about it that is quite magical. It is really a children's book, but I think you can say that about a lot of Neil Gaiman stories as well. They can apply to children, but they also apply to adults as well. And there's a certain type of writing in The Graveyard Book that Neil Gaiman really creates this kind of tense atmosphere, as well as doing his version of the Jungle Book, essentially. But instead of being in the jungle, it's set by a child is raised in a graveyard by all of the skeletons, all the bodies that have been buried there, and there's all manner of of the dead teaching this boy things. From what they've learned over the years, you have bodies from the Victorian era, even from the Roman period. So, and that's really fun, really exciting, and also there's this kind of mystery chase kind of element interweaved throughout as well. So yeah, Neil Gaiman gets this really tense nature. What I really love about the Graveyard Book is its subtlety as well, that that adults can pick up on, and then the children can start to. I like to read this book in my job as well at school, and the kids always love it whenever we talk about it. So the first chapter is just one of those amazing chapters that is the kids are immediately hooked because there's bloody murder in. So yeah, I love it. I really like Neil Gaiman's works, but this is my favourite by him.
Oh, Neil Gaiman's fantastic. I love I named one of his books in our last episode. I love that kind of double nature that he has, where a lot of it is it's got a double meaning to it. But anyway, on to my next honourable mention. That is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. Yes, so this is like other than Dracula, like the classic vampire story, isn't it? Salem's Lot has become very famous. I think it was his second book that he wrote after Carrie. I may be wrong. But we did a really long Me, You and Papa Gwynne, didn't we, of Salem's Lot, because it's one of his favourite books. And
Dad said we could only read it at
night. And yes, it has to have an honourable mention. If it can actually make me terrified, then it's earned a spot on the Standalones list. Stephen King is a fantastic writer. The way that he crafts the whole village feel, the town where he goes into everyone's heads. There's probably 20 POVs throughout this. Some only have a short snippet. But the way he does it, he makes each character seem so real with their own motivations and drives that are so far away from the main plot, but then they somehow link into the story. It's just absolutely fantastic. He's perhaps the best at creating tone and atmosphere and having that satisfying crescendo. But yes, especially in Salem's Lot, I think Stephen King, I've not read too many of his books, but he's often criticised for his endings, but I loved the ending in Salem's Lot, and I also read later and I loved that ending. But yes, so Salem's Lot is fantastic. It's a vampire tale, but with a lot of twists. It's got those ideas vampires we love, and the coffin at night, and the familiar, the human familiar. But yeah, it's fantastic, and I think my book reviews will be happy to see a Stephen King book on
100%. The next one for me is a book that kind of reinvigorated my love of reading a couple of years ago, and it kind of sent me down the path, and I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for this book. I mean, as in on YouTube. But Patrick DeWitt, The Sisters Brothers. This is a book. It's quite a quirky, non-linear book. It is a Western about two brothers. I don't know why that appealed to me so much. I wonder why. And these brothers, there is a film out there with Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly. It's not quite as good as the book, because the book, you like Game of Thrones, you get to be in their actual head, and the beauty of this book is the charming character, the main character that you are in their head, and it's fantastic. I love the way it's written. I said in our last video, there's a kind of a subtlety and also a humour that is written within Western tales that I don't read anywhere else, and it's just my kind of humour. It
embraces that quirky nature.
It really does, yeah. There's all these really interesting, diverse, and unique characters that are just very peculiar people, but I love reading about them, and this sometimes is a comedy. Sometimes it reads a bit like a noir. Sometimes it's it's a little bit like an Odyssey, but it is about the relationship between these two brothers. And what I like about Patrick DeWitt is that he will have these humour moments, these funny moments that probably they're not like laugh out loud moments, but they're it's just feel like you're having a little bit of a joke with the author. But then you also have these really emotional moments, and these moments that really catch you by surprise, and they can you suck in your breath just with a line or two here. It shows he's such a really good writer. The ending is a bit funny. It's not a book, it's not going to be like a Clint Eastwood book. It's not like Unforgiven or anything. There's no shootout at the end in the saloon, or Meet Me at High Noon or anything.
Not
like
Western in that way.
Definitely not. It's a very non-conventional Western. It's probably a reason why I love it so much, because there's not much focus on the guns. There's more focus on the characters, and it's a lot of fun.
And my next and final honourable mention, I said that quite strangely, honourable mention is Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. This is an indie published fantasy book, which I believe it's labelled as part of a series, but all these characters are just in one book. It's labelled as a series because it's in the same one, but it's a series of standalones that you can read in any order. To my knowledge, anyway. And Never Die is so quirky. Where basically it's about getting together a group of heroes to face the big bad. But Rob J. Hayes subverts a lot of those tropes and makes them so interesting. And the ending, so many twists. It just really took me by surprise. I was completely immersed in the story. You read it and enjoyed it as well, didn't you?
I loved it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And yeah, Never Die is absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite fantasy Standalones, full stop. Definitely. And yeah, I'd definitely say check out Rob J. Hayes' Never Die. I need to carry on reading some more of his books.
I actually didn't see that when I went through my list. And now I feel like it should have been on my list.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
What
could have been? What could have been? But at least you got another book in there, and you just said so. Basically, you got 11.
Yeah, it would be on there, Rob, if you're watching.
Yeah.
I foolishly didn't
neglected to put it on there. Yeah. But now, wait, have you got one more honourable mention?
Yeah.
Nice.
Go ahead. My turn. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The next one for me is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This is a book that had a huge impact on me as a young boy. I love the film as well with Patrick Swayze and I think Tom Cruise is in it as well. Yeah, it's a great cast, but Emilio Estevez, all that kind of stuff. But The Outsiders is kind of, it's like Grease, but a dark version, basically, without the songs as well. It's this story, and S.E. Hinton was actually a young teenage girl when she wrote this, and this is a story that kind of happened in her area where she lived. But there were two cultures. There were the greasers, like the kind of the rockabillys, but the poor society, and then the socials, which were kind of the posh kids, and they all went to the same school, and there's a bit of a feud between them. But and this is a story of a family of greasers, and a murder happens, some of them go on the run, and it is a story of family, a story of looking after each other, and a story of friendship as well. And that's probably why it hits so hard. There are some some awful scenes in this that just will break your heart, and there's some scenes here that will make you laugh so much you will love these characters. But,
even more so when you know it's based on true stories.
Exactly, but it's beautiful. It's beautifully written, and it's such an addictive book as well. I think I've read it 4 or 5 times back to back. It was just beautiful, and I really would like to read it again actually soon, because as I said, it had a huge impact on me as a kid as well. But if you haven't read the book, definitely go check out the film as well. The film's absolutely fantastic, and this is a very faithful adaptation. So yeah, the
film's amazing as well. And that I'm going to cash in my neglect of the video, and that is not having the Outsiders in there.
Very nice.
But now Ed, on to our number 1 book. Would you honour me with a drum roll, please? My number 1 is, and it might surprise a few people, but it's Normal People. So this is very different to any other book that I've had on the list.
Very different to Weird People.
Yeah, very different to Weird
People.
But yes, Normal People by Sally Rooney. It took the world by storm, the programme, the adaptation a few years ago, and it's been one of the most successful book releases the last few years in the mainstream area. Normal People, I think that Sally Rooney has such a gift in creating characters who are very flawed, but you're still rooting for them. And they're so awkward, aren't they? And you just feel like it's very hard to create awkward characters in books where they don't become jarring or annoying. But Sally Rooney has hit the perfect balance, and she does so masterfully. Connell and Marianne are 2 of my favourite characters of all time.
Yeah, Sally Rooney makes me feel a bit more normal.
Yeah, some could call it a romance, but I wouldn't, because this is just
quite romantic.
There are romantic scenes, but also it's too much tragedy, really, to be a romance. Definitely not a rom-com. But yes, so Normal People is absolutely incredible. It was really a stretch. I thought this isn't going to be for me, but I gave it a shot because some people I know really enjoyed it. And yeah, I took the plunge, and then I did like it. It is my number 1 standalone, one of my favourite books of all time. I absolutely adored it. In short, that wasn't a short sentence. I don't know why I said in short. In long. But yeah, Normal People is my number 1 pick, my favourite standalone of all time.
And then for me, my pick is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. Now, if you've watched our review on this book, then you will know that I absolutely love it. This is my favourite standalone. By far, this... where to begin with Blood Meridian? Honestly, go check out our review, because whatever I say now will not be enough. But Blood Meridian basically is a book of the American West, and this is the story of the southern states of Texas, of New Mexico as well, and Mexico. And it's a band, essentially it's a band of scalp hunters are paid by the Mexican government to bring them any Native American scalp. So Apache, Comanche, Navajo, anyone with a scalp, if they take it, they get paid a pretty hefty amount of dollars. And it is the story of this band going through, and they feel like they start off with a righteous cause, and it really goes downhill from there because they commit some extreme atrocities. But yeah, what I love about this book, it is very bloody, it is very gory, and it's bloody to a whole new level, to a very real and very crunching level that can be jarring, and it really sucks people out of the story. And I think I've seen lots of people say they get to certain bits and it's just too much for them, which I completely understand. And there, you know, the thing I knew about this book was that what Cormac McCarthy is writing, some people say he glorifies the violence and slaughter. He doesn't. This stuff actually happened, and he's taking actually this
and
story.
he doesn't make it admirable.
No, he not at all. He's taking this story actually from an ex-soldier, an ex-scalp hunter's memoirs called Samuel Chamberlain. So it is real. He is writing very real stuff. So I never feel like he's making up for the pages, you know, to make the book bigger and bloodier and more, you know, more gory. It's not that kind of book at all. But yeah, this stuff all genuinely happened, which is probably why it hits hard. But yeah, there's one thing that Cormac McCarthy does better than anyone else in the world, I think, and that is his prose. I mean, yeah, he might disregard kind of basic, very basic English features such as commas and speech marks and punctuation, that kind of stuff, and his sentences have this free-flowing nature that it does feel very real. But, you know, I don't mind that. Some people are like, if you don't use a comma, then, you know, I'm not going to read your book. You obviously can't write. A child could write this, but no, he has these turns of speech, these turns of phrase as well that are just sublime. There are things that I still think of day to day. There are quotes that I think of that are the most beautiful ways of describing things, even and the most peculiar ways of describing things as well, things I would never think of. So yeah, he is a way with words. He's a wordsmith, a master, and I will always love reading Cormac McCarthy, even though this is a very harrowing book. There is the best villain I think I've probably ever read, which is Judge Holden here. I know some people say he's a bit caricature, but there are things here with him that I just love reading about. But yeah, it's a very dark book. So honestly, it's like Michael Fletcher is nothing compared to Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah, you need to read Blood Meridian. I mean, it says a lot when I did a dissertation style essay analysing this in another book, and I didn't get bored of it at all. I read it like 3-4 times. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
It is a book that you always feel like every reread you will learn more about it, and it's I think because the way he writes it's so up there, you know, his level. That when you read, you feel like you're just getting a little bit closer and closer to truly understanding what he was going for when he was writing this. But yeah, that is my take on Blood Meridian.
And that is all of the books we're talking about today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed us talking about our favourite standalones of all time. Let us know yours. Let us know if we intrigued you in a few of our picks. Let us know anything basically in the comments. We'd love to talk to you down there, and we'll put links to our socials and everything in the description below if you want to tag us in any posts of getting these books or whatever.
Let us know if any of these books, us talking about them, made you want to pick them up. Which book do we sell the most? Which book do you think sounds right up your street? Please let us know in the comments below. We'd love to have a chat with you there.
Yes, we would, but thank you very much for now. Thank you so much for watching. Truth and Courage, the Brothers Gwynne.
Truth and Courage from the Brothers Gwynne.